Hello everyone, today we are going to learn about the English literary periods. So let's go. English literary period is mainly categorized based on the development of the English language. There are many English literary periods, so we are going to learn about two of them. One is the Old English period and the second is the Middle English or the Medieval English period. So let's go and learn about them. The Old English literary period is mainly between 450 to 1066 years. So before we learn about the Old English period, we have to learn about Anglo-Saxon and what it is. So let's understand what is Anglo-Saxon. The Anglo-Saxons formed the basis of English culture, religion, and language. The term Anglo-Saxon refers to a group of settlers from the German regions of England and Saxony, who took over England after the fall of the Roman Empire. They ruled England for 600 years, and they were the one who first introduced the Old English literature. That's why the Old English period is also known as Anglo-Saxon period. Anglo-Saxons were mainly a pagan society, but the writers were mostly Christians or known as the Britons. That's why we could see two types of poetry at that time. One is heroic, which were written by the pagans, and one is religious, which were written by the Britons. In that time, there wasn't many scientific advancement, or neither were presses. So many of the works were lost in time, as the written ones were mostly religious or royal manuscript. But there are some examples of the Old English literature. The most famous one is a book called the Exeter Book. Here should be the picture of that book. It contained 131 poetries, including the Wanderer, the Seafarer, and Wives' Lament. The reason for it to be so special is that the poetry talked about normal day-to-day life problems faced by the normal people, which was a big step in English literature. Fun fact, when the Anglo-Saxons invaded Britain, the Anglos were the dominant one. So the Britain was called the Anglo-land, and after a while, now it's called England. So that's how the name came. The Middle English period was roughly between the 11th century to the late 15th century. To understand the Middle English period, we first have to understand when it all started. After the Norman conquest of 1066, when William the Conqueror defeated Harold II at the Battle of Hastings and became the King of England, this event marked the beginning of the Norman rule. After the beginning of Norman rule, a third language and culture was introduced. The average person spoke the Old English while the upper classes spoke Norman French. Two languages blend together to create Middle English. Middle English was a between language that bridged the development of English from Old English to early modern English. Let's look at some medieval literatures. First, we can start with troubadour poetry, where we can find Bernard de Ventadorn's writing of courtly love and Arthurian legends. We can also find some epic romance by Sir Gawain and Dante Alighieri's Inferno. We can also see some religious poetry by Julian Norwich and sonnets by Prittridge. In the medieval literature, we can see heroism from both Germanic and Christian tradition, sometimes also together. For example, in Beowulf, we can see a dramatic pagan theme story, but Christian traditions comes in the end and wins the day. Also in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, we can see the knights are very Christian, but the things they fight are more dramatic and fairy tale alike. We can see how the two traditions merge together. The literature was also a presentation for moral lessons like loyalty to the king and chivalry. To know how it all came, we have to know first what is feudalism. So let's go. In the Middle Ages, feudalism was a common economical system where the commoners lived on a feudal manor, and the lord of the manor gave his vassal land to the commoners to farm, and the commoners paid tax for protection. Feudalism is important as it created obedience and loyalty. As a result, we found chivalry, a product of feudalism. Chivalry was an idealized system of manners and morals to be loyal to his god, to his lord, and to his lady. From that, we can understand how heroism, romance, chivalry, and religious messages were the main characteristics of medieval literature. In the end, we can say Old English and Middle English are the foundation of today's modern English. So thank you all for joining me to the journey we took about learning them. So we'll see you again. Ta-da!